The next day was a rainy and dark. Rain fell on the. The next day was a rainy and dark. Rain fell on the roof of the barn and dripped steadily from the eaves. Rain fell in the barnyard and ran in cooked course down into the lane, where thistles and pigweed grew. Rain splattered against Mrs. Zucker's kitchen windows and came gushing out of the downspouts. Rain fell on the back of the sheep as they gazed in the meadow. When the sheep tired of standing in the rain, they walked slowly up the lane and into the fold. Rain upset Wilbur's plans. Wilbur had planned to go out this day and dig a new hole in his yard. He had other plans too. His plans for the day went something like this: breakfast at 6:30, skim milk crusts, middling bits of donuts, wheat cakes with drop of maple syrup sticking to them, potato skins, leftover custard pudding with raisins and bits of shredded wheat. Breakfast would be finished at 7. From 7 to 8, Wilbur planned to have a talk with Templin, the rat that lived under his trowel. Taking with the Templin was not the most interesting occupation in the world, but it was better than nothing. From 8 to 9, Wilbur planned to take a nap out of the doors in the sun. From 9 to 11, he planned to dig a hole or trench and possibly find something good to eat, buried in the dirt. From 11 to 12, he planned to stand and watch flies on the boards, watch bees in the clover, and watch swallows in the air. 12 o'clock, lunchtime, meeting warm water, apple earrings, meat gravy, carrot scrapings, meat scraps, steel on meat, and the wrapper of a package of cheese. Lunch would be over at 1. From 1 to 2, Wilbur planned to sleep. From 2 to 3, he planned to scratch itchy places by rubbing against the fence. From 3 to 4, he planned to stand perfectly still and think of what it was like to be alive, and to wait for Fern. At 4 would come supper: skim milk, pulvered leftover sandwich from Libby's lunchbox, prune skins, a morsel of this, a bit of that, fried potatoes, marmalade dippings, a little more of this, a little more of that, a piece of baked apple, a scrap of upside-down cake. Wilbur had gone thinking about these plans. He woke at 6 and saw the rain, and it seemed as though he couldn't bear it. He couldn't bear it. I get everything from beautifully planned out, and it has to go and rain, he said. For a while he stood gloomy indoors, and then he walked to the door and looked out. Drops of rain struck his face. His yard was cold and wet. His trowel had been an inch from rainwater in it. Templin has nowhere to be seen. "Are you there, Templin?" cried Wilbur. There was no answer. Suddenly Wilbur felt lonely and friendless. One day, just like another, he groaned. I am very young. I have no real friend here in the barn. It's going to rain all morning and all afternoon, said Wilbur. No, said Fern. Won't come in such a bad weather. Oh, honestly. And Wilbur was crying again for the second time in 2 days. At 6:30, Wilbur heard a banging of pail. Lurvy was standing outside in the rain stirring up breakfast. Come on, Pig, said Lurvy. Wilbur did not budge. Lurvy jumped the slops, scraped the pail, and walked away. He noticed something that was wrong with the pig. Wilbur didn't want food. He wanted love. He wanted a friend, someone who could play with him. He mentioned this to the goose, who was sitting quietly in a corner of the sheepfold. Will you come over and play with me? He asked. Sorry, Sonny, sorry, said the goose. I'm sitting on my eggs. 8 of them, got to keep them toasty, oasty warm. I have to stay here. No. Lipperty, gibbet. I don't want to play where the eggs to hatch. I'm expecting glass eggs. Well, I didn't think you were expecting woodpeckers, said Wilbur bitterly. Wilbur next tried one of the lamps. Will you please play with me? He asked. Certainly not, said the lamb. In the first place, I cannot get in your pen, as I am not old enough to jump over the fence. In second place, I'm not interested in pigs. Pigs mean less nothing to me. What do you mean, less nothing? Replied Wilbur. I don't think there is any such thing as less than nothing. Nothing is absolutely the limit of nothingness. It's the lowest you can go. It's the end of the line. How can something be less than nothing? If there were something that was less than nothing, even nothing could not be nothing. It would be something even though it's just very little bit of something. But if it's nothing is nothing, then nothing has nothing that is less than it is. Oh, be quiet, said the lamb. Go play by yourself. I don't play with pigs. Sadly, Wilbur lay down and listened to the rain. Soon he saw the rat climbing down and slating board as he used as a stairway. Will you play with me, Templin? Asked Wilbur. Play, said Templin, twirling his whiskers. Play? I hardly know the meaning of the word. Well, said Wilbur, it means to have fun, to frolic, to run and skip, and make it merry. I never do those things if I can avoid them, replied the rat. Sourly, I prefer to spend time eating guano, spying, and hitting. I am a glutton, but not a merrymaker. Right, now I'm on my way to Trout to eat your breakfast, since you haven't got sense enough to eat it yourself. And Templin the rat crept silently along the walls and disappeared into the private tunnel that he dug between the door and Trout and Wilbur's yard. Templin was a crafty rat, and he had things pretty much in his own way. The tunnel was an example for skill, and cutting the tubble enabled him to get from the barn to his hiding place under the pig's trough. Without coming into the open, he had tunnels and runways over Mrs. Zuckerman's farm, and usually can get from one place to another without being seen. Usually he slept during the daytime and was abroad after the dark. Wilbur watched him disappear into his tunnel. In a moment he saw Rat's sharp nose poke out from underneath the wooden trowel. Cautiously, Chamberlain pulled himself up over the edge of the trap. This was almost more than Wilbur could stand on his dreary rainy day. To see his breakfast being eaten by someone else, he knew Chamberlain wasn't getting soaked out there in the pouring rain, but even that didn't comfort him. Friendless, dejected, and hungry, he threw himself down into the manure and sobbed. Late that afternoon, Leary went to Mr. Zuckerman. "I think there's something wrong with that pig of yours. He hasn't touched his food. Give him 2 spoonfuls of slurper and a little more," said Mr. Zuckerman. Wilbur couldn't believe what was happening to him. When Leary caught him and forced the medicine down his throat, this was usually the worst day of his life. He didn't know whether he could endure the awful loneliness anymore. Darkness settled over everything. Soon there were shadows and the noisiness of sheep chewing their cuds, and allegedly the rattle of a cow chain up overhead. You can imagine Wilbur's surprise when out of the darkness came a small voice he had never heard before. It sounded rather thin but pleasant. "Do you want a friend, Wilbur?" it said. I'll be a friend to you. I've watched you all day, and I like you." "But I can't see you," said Wilbur, jumping to his feet. "Where are you, and who are you?" "I'm right up here," said the voice. "Go to sleep. You'll see me in the morning."